Hello and hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more esports news. This is all about Epic Games, who currently runs the largest game out there, but considered by many that being Fortnite. We do cover Fortnite news here on the channel, and in breaking news this week, brought to us by Polygon, I will link an article down below for all of you guys. Some crazy interviews from both former and current employees over at Epic and what's been going on over the past few months, and especially over the past year and a half, as we've seen the rise of Fortnite, and of course, its ferocious rise at that. Along with that, though, many of these employees now coming forward about the harsh working conditions and hours they have undergone, and it is absolutely shocking. So I hope you guys all enjoy the full article. I really encourage you guys to read that as well. Will be linked down below for all of you, but let's break it down what these 12 current and former employees have now come forward to say about Epic Games. And it's pretty crazy to see what these 12 people did come forward and say, many of which actually claim their regular 70-hour work weeks, with some people even citing 100-hour work weeks as well, which was also voluntary service for a few of these people, meaning they weren't often actually paid for that full amount of hours unless that time was contracted out. Now, why this is actually, first of all, pretty surprising. You know, I have a few friends in the coding industry, so when it comes to developers and the primary people that actually contract out, now developers also included in that, my own team leader has also been in the coding fields. Hearing 70-hour weeks is not the most surprising thing, especially when you go into the upper echelon and even the Silicon Valley of gaming industries out there, other industries as well. To hear 50, 60, 70 hours is probably expected in that direct field, but this is also across other branches all across Epic, because they were so flooded with the growth of the game itself. It was not just developers, it was not just coders, it was also HR people in management as well, working these extended hours. And I, for one, in this article, is the first time I've ever heard about 100-hour weeks. Think about that. 2.5 times the regular work week of 40 hours is what they were putting in, because of, later actually stated as well, they were simply in fear if they didn't actually put in the extra effort, the extra hours, they would simply be replaced. So it was no surprise. You know, a lot of these workers went on to say that they reported a hostile work environment, right? You work that many extra hours, sometimes not being paid, you're going to get hostile. They worked out of fear in order to produce, and even suffering from health issues as well. Again, no surprise when you're going to work that much. Pretty much, if it comes down to a 100-hour work week, think about that. If you're working 100 hours in a single week, it pretty much comes down to working, sleeping, and that's the continual cycle. Of course, you're going to have some health concerns along with that. And as a part of these dozen interviews conducted by Polygon, all wished to remain anonymous. No surprise there. They didn't want any backlash to come back to, of course, the current people who did report these things, as well as the former, for their future jobs. And several times the supposedly horrifying work hours were mentioned, with no member wanting to be the guy or the fall guy who didn't pull his weight, thus giving more work to everyone else. So of course, a lot of people out there who were working with Epic as a part of a certain team or management, or as a coder or developer, they didn't want to be that one person who only worked 40 hours and then 50 hours or only 60 hours, because if they did not work their extra time, everyone else was then backlogged with their remaining work, and that is never a positive thing. If you eventually grow up to work in a place, you'll know that if you don't pull your weight, it can often be seen as, you know, obviously people are going to look down upon you. And so it's understandable that if all of your coworkers are putting in 70-hour weeks, it almost becomes, sadly enough, expected of you to do at least that as well, to pull your own weight. So if you all of a sudden are seemingly kind of even silently under the rug forcing these guys to work such crazy hours, if someone's not going to be working those hours, everyone else is going to be judging that individual person. So it was almost like a continual cycle of these people working 70, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks, because of not only peer pressure, but the fear of putting that weight on anyone else if you do not work your supposed crazy hour schedule. And here's where we get into the stuff that we have talked about so long while covering Fortnite news. The second interviewee in this and conducted interview as well hit the nail on the head when talking about Epic and their forced updates with Fortnite. Actually, word by word, he did include and actually say the biggest problem is that we are patching all the time. Even better, a point made later as well with that same interviewee, the execs keep reacting and changing things. If something breaks, say a weapon, we can't just turn it off and fix it. It must be fixed immediately whilst also working on the next patch. And this reigns true to what everyone on the Reddit forums, any forums who generally have played the game of Fortnite as well, weekly updates are not going to be a long-term thing. They're just not survivable for a game out there, but Fortnite has done this amongst all of the games out there more frequently, and they've kept it up for a lot longer time than we ever thought they would. And Fortnite has become known for weekly patches, useless updates, but at the same time tons of updates, which other game devs, they simply do not do. You cannot name a single game out there that does the update pace, especially on such a large scale as well, that Fortnite does. And at first you think, especially over the past, I would say over the first 5 to 6 months, when you play Fortnite and they keep on updating the game with some great things, you think, hey, that's really cool. Each and every week we have something new to look forward to. But over time, and especially the past 5 to 6 months, it has become excessive. They've not been actually fixing the current bugs and issues. They keep forcing in items and weapons and these updates that continually break the game and actually cause late game issues, and that's where we actually have the problem come into, and that's where it comes into play, where he does say that they kept on updating the patches way too frequently, and I think we can all resonate with that exactly. And also mention 3 separate interviewees of the 12, so many actually kind of remarking about this. They also made sure to mention the disposability of Epic's employees. Several times they did cite that people who are unwilling to work weekends or even the extra hours were often replaced or just let go, or their contracts were simply not renewed. So touching back on the first point, they were so in fear of losing their jobs, oftentimes not only peer pressure from coworkers, but also the fear of losing your own job. You tend to be forced into these extra hours, and so you're going to do them unwillingly. Of course, you don't really want to do them, but you feel forced to the fact of fear and peer pressure from your coworkers. It's such an unhealthy environment to think about, but it does make so much sense as to how Epic was actually possibly keeping up with the workload. And speaking of that, very lastly in the interviews as well, Epic's full-time staff, they mentioned, had only doubled ever since its launch in 2017, a clear and obvious problem considering the game had grown several times its original size, especially throughout its ferocious growth throughout the end of 2017 and of course throughout 2018 as well, becoming the single most popular game in all of esports and all of gaming. It's pretty incredible to think their work staff somehow full-time only doubled when the game itself was increasing tenfold or infinite fold, I guess you could say. The game exploded to what the world has known as, the most widely renowned game in gaming history, dare I say that. But this all makes so much sense. As we conclude the video, leave your thoughts down below what you guys think about this. I'll still obviously still going to complain on Reddit forums, about some pretty crazy updates they have done, but it definitely makes you rethink exactly what these developers are going through, that being Epic and of course the staff that's unfortunately forced this work upon them. Also mentioned in the article as well is the execs. The execs constantly react and change things, and that is why unfortunately enough we have come to what Fortnite is now. They are so used to frequent updates and trying to keep relevant in the gaming scene out there, they are now seemingly forcing these updates down everyone's throats week in and week out. And I'm no longer going to blame the developers out there. It feels unfortunate, but if they are paying your bills and you feel the pressure to actually create these updates that the management and the executives are forcing upon you, I think anyone in their shoes would do their exact same thing. You finish what the management and execs want you to do, and you push back all the things that you find in your heart or in your deep down in your coding self or developer self are the true issues of the game. You push those back because your management and your staff and your executives are forcing these constant updates because that is their priority now. It truly seems. And it really makes you feel worse when you hear these accounts of 70 to 100-hour work weeks, and all of a sudden you realize these guys put countless hours into, let's say for instance, notoriously patch 8.3, and you put that out after a long week or 2 weeks work, whatever it might be, if a patch is delayed, and all of a sudden all you see all across Twitter, all across Reddit and YouTube is revert, and deep down the work you had done is not actually appreciated, but the executives and the upper management keep on pushing that same exact content, and it's no wonder these interviews have now finally become public about the harsh conditions that Epic puts their employees under. And I think we can all now fully realize, like we probably did before as well, what the true nature of this game has become. It's shelling out constant content to actually try and stay relevant. Meanwhile, all the in-game issues are being pushed back on the cycle, and I'm not even get to the list of in-game issues that Fortnite has. We have seen them expressed coherently throughout the past few weeks, and I'm sure you guys know them as well. But as always, make sure to leave your thoughts down below. I'm super curious what you guys think about this, and hopefully articles like this and videos like this only bring more light to what Fortnite should be doing as compared to what they're currently doing, and hopefully going to focus more on the health and livelihoods of their employees, and maybe change their update style as well to maybe less frequent and focus on the key issues in the game. Are they going to do that? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. But as always, my name is Jake. I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode. As always, I'll see you guys back here sometime soon, more esports news, and until then, take care.